All right. Well, as people might be coming in, I know it's like a lunch break and everything. We want to just welcome you to this time to work on your business, not in it. And so we're reviewing 2024 and preparing for 2025. You can always put your information in the chat. Love to have a good conversation. You can always unmute yourself or put your video on so you can talk as well. So it's a fair game. So in the chat, if you want to put like your name and on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like I feel really ready, I'm really ready. How do you feel 1 to 10 for 2025? And then we'll gauge the room, as they say. So just a little bit about me. I think I know a handful of you here today, so that's great. I've had my own law firm for 15 years, practicing 16 years, and I love law practice management. Wrote a book 5 years ago, and then most recently, my latest book is on Amazon. Power Up Your Practice, Create the law firm, and the life you deserve, and also teach law practice management at a local law school and regularly write on this topic. But I wanted to create this webinar today because it's just so much I think we're all thinking about as we're preparing for the new year. It's a little bit different with those of us whose practices are going to be changed by a change in administration. And so there's a lot of things to think through and wanting to be able to have someone else to think through those things together. So anyway, loving that you all joined us. So we've got a 4, we've got a 6. Let's see what other, you could just let us know 1 to 10. How do you feel? I'll tell you all, I'm thinking like 7.5 or 8, maybe. I don't know. I've got some things I really want to get done these next, what is it, like a month or so. So that's my take on it. So this is a little bit different than last month's webinar, and I wanted to really go into like a little bit more detail about how we can really be reviewing 2024 and preparing for 2025. So let's review our progress, start putting together more of a plan and where we're going to focus that low-hanging fruit on how we can improve, and then start making those bite-sized actionable steps. I put this in the book, but I felt really bad because I'm a vegetarian. I didn't even like thinking about it, but it was about how do you eat an elephant. Apparently somebody thought this was an interesting quote. I don't know, it was someone who came up with that idea, and it's just like one step at a time. And so anyway, it's just like I think a better one is the journey of 1,000 miles takes one step. I don't know, I'm sort of bad at expressions, but it's something along those lines. And then, what are other things that we should be spotting to be sort of like doing like a risk assessment or analysis, or just saying, hey, this could be a key factor in the future. So thanks for those who are giving me your numbers. And so we've got, so far we're getting in the 4s, the 6s, 3, 4, and we average that with like a 7.5. So maybe that's around a 5 or something like that. So I feel like we're all need to be here in some capacity, and we can help cheer each other on. So let's look at 2024. I think if you really want us to make a strategy, you've got to see what data you do have. And so that's why it's important to evaluate, sort of stop and make a plan. This is a pretty cool idea. Well, 2 points, right? One is the 4 poisons of the mind are fear, confusion, hesitation, and surprise. I think when you don't think forward about contingencies of what could happen, like for example, change in administration, hurricanes, floods, change in economy, what have you. If you don't have some of those thoughts through, then the first time you ever think about it, it can cause a lot of fear and confusion, and hesitation, like think long, think wrong, or not making a decision because you stalled too long can have an impact. And so by thinking through different scenarios and having these like high level exercises are really important of having a better outcome. And so then the other idea is these survival instructors use the STOP acronym of stop, observe, think, plan, and act. So it's just, I mean, it sounds pretty simple, but really just sort of like take it in, figure out what's going on, use, your high level thinking, make a plan and act. And that's really what I want, I think, us all to do. Because this, I think what you could do here is you can use what I'm talking about, take some notes, and then um, block off some time. Okay, so I don't know how many of you are working the next, what's today, the next 2.5 weeks. There's sort of going to get a quieter time with the holidays and everything, but look at your calendar and say, when is a good time for me to really put a lot of this stuff into action? What, maybe like a half day to start, or okay, maybe an hour. You're like, okay, that's too much time. So maybe, but it's, you're investing in your firm. So I would say find a time when you can do it, like at least a couple of hours to really honestly go through this. And you can also make some other homework for some of your team so that they can bring some of that information to you so that you can be reviewing it. We do leadership meetings in my firm, and we do quarterly, we have more of a deeper dive where we get to talk through these things. And so those, we make actionable items that we can accomplish during the different quarters, and we go from there. So one of the takeaways from this slide is you need to block off some time the next 2.5 weeks for you to work on your firm. I would like it to be at least minimum 2 hours, but if you can, at least half a day. And if you want to block it off, space it out so that you can actually think about it, but then come back and put some work in motion. Now, while you're, this is just another idea to use, is to have your issues list. And I didn't invent this idea. Got it from Traction by Dino Wickman. And I really like this mindset. It's like you can have a list somewhere. It could be like a Google Doc or some other shared doc that you have access to, and your team can too, where when you find a problem, you put it there, you decide define what that problem is, you prioritize it, and then assign it. But before you even have to do all of that, just start making a list. Now, if you have this list somewhere that you can pull out and just start dumping it, then at least it goes somewhere. If you think about the book, Getting Things Done by David Allen, he talks about if you have a system that you trust in trying to get organized, then you'll be less stressed and have less anxiety about it. And so that's what I like. The beauty of this is called the issues list. And it sounds better than problems list, right? Because it sounds a little bit more positive, I think. So whatever you want to call it, but the idea is first you start dumping stuff there. And then later on, you go in and you say, hey, this is a really big issue because that affects all this other stuff. And if we solve that first, then we can really get things done. And then eventually you're going to want to assign it to someone to help work on, or to own it, and a deadline as well. So not just like, oh, just get to it when you want to. No, you need a deadline. And then you can also look to the bigger picture and see when is everything needs to get solved. Like we're going to focus on, billing and invoicing for the first quarter, and then we're going to focus on, I don't know, some other operations, and then we're going to get to another part. I know for me, it's hard for me to space those things out because I'm like, oh, let's get everything done at the same time. But does that really work? No, it doesn't. When you try to do all the things at the same time, then almost nothing gets done right. So you've got to really that's why you have to prioritize. But I really like this mindset, especially if we're going into this exercise. So as we, I let's go do this one real quick though. Let's think about let's all put in the chat a project or goal that you're really proud of. Personally, if you want to put personal, go ahead. Or something from your firm that you're really proud of, that you accomplished in 2024. So this is really not a webinar you can just be running in the background and you're trying to do some other thing. You really should be engaging in it to get the full effect, so that you can be you're really thinking through and all the neurons flashing and firing up. So I would say personally for me, I'd say it would be getting healthier and losing weight. And then for my firm, I'd say is moving over to new case management software and really starting to see the benefit from the firm getting more fully engaged in that and creating more projects that have made us more more efficient. So I'm sharing that. But I think these questions are really important. And could April, Haley, could you put maybe these listed questions in the chat so people could copy it, and then they can put it on their notes for later. You can get from the PowerPoint. And so nobody wants to share a goal. Nobody wants to share something they accomplished in a brag. Anyone? um, Usually this is the place where people want to brag. Okay. Oh, hi, Stephanie. You cleaned out your closet. Yay. Personally, I love that. I love it. There's this book about like feng shui and like energy and stuff. I forgot what it was called, but I mentioned it in my book. It's so true. Like the more you declutter an area, you feel better. This energy gets flowing, and it's a good feeling. And so don't underestimate the impact of reducing clutter around you at home or at the office. And and transition case management and maternity leave, and bouncing back from the maternity leave. So that's great. A new case management software again. Oh, we got another person on that. And 89 schedule for 2025. Okay, great. Well, if anybody else wants to put in a brag of what you are, a joy of what you accomplished in 2024, personally or professionally or both, feel free to do that. But I think this is a good list of questions that helps getting you started to think, because if you really think about it, it's been a whole year. What did you do? Did you use your time wisely? Or did you just let it escape and just were you like in just trying to keep your head above water? And I think the reason why this is so important is because this is a good point, like a inflection point for you to evaluate and see how you want to go forward. And do you feel like you ran 2024 the way you would have wanted to if you could do it over again? Because now you can do 2025. It's just around the corner. So let's go back and do a little review about the review and evaluate. So Peter Drucker talks about what's measured matters, and when you have that data and you're not just going on feelings for this type of thing, then you can really learn the why and figure out and how to adapt and change and experiment and what you could do differently. So these are just some really good tools to think through of what you could do to start evaluating in earnest your 2024, which is really important to be doing because you still have a few weeks left in case there's something that needs to get done before the end of the year for tax purposes, for example. But also, I generally see this as a quieter time when many people are getting out of school or taking off. And so I feel like I can relax a little bit more when things slow down. Now, it might not truly be slowing down, but let's just pretend. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But at some point, you can't just wait for things to slow down to get stuff done. You have to actually just make it a priority and move through it. So let's review some financial metrics, for example. So I would go into your billing, your QuickBooks Online, wherever you put all your data, and run some P&L, some other financial reports. Look, as long as you can trust the data, that been reconciled and it's accurate. Looking at your revenue, profitability, you could be running different ratios of your net income, the profit margin. These are super important. But what's even better is if you can run it year to year or over several years to see how you're doing. And if you can have that data in one place, like in my QuickBooks Online, for example, as soon as everything's reconciled, I know I can trust the data, and I can manipulate different reports that help me get that information, because you want to be able to learn from it. What does that mean? Like maybe we have the same revenue, but we're more profitable than we were the year before. How did we do that? So first of all, you're going to be pulling this information, and then you're going to be starting to look through it. So don't get too overwhelmed by what I'm saying. Just think through like how you can do this. And looking at the cash flow, accounts receivable, do you have a lot of people who owe you? Is that more than it was before? Why did that happen? So that's why getting this data is important, and then understanding the why behind what you're seeing. And if you're not as familiar with some of these financial metrics, then I would say get an advisor, a consultant, CPA, financial CFO, financial advisor. They all do different things and they have different expertise, but find someone that you that works with you that can fill in those gaps that you are weaker and help you and learn, or take some courses on these things as well. Because I think as lawyers, we joke a lot about like we're not good at numbers or something. I don't know. I even wrote about that in my book. Saying, let's stop saying that, because we do need to be good at numbers. We're running businesses and we are helping other clients with numbers and things like that. So we can be good at this. And let's speak positive and manifest our ability to exceed and excel. So that's just a starter, but basically looking at those numbers, right? And pulling those numbers and trusting those numbers. Then let's move over to some client metrics. Well, how many, and pausing for a moment, you might say, Ruby, I don't have all that stuff in one place. Well, you're going to go on a little scavenger hunt and you start collecting. And if you have some team members, I would say have them help you pull that data, give them a deadline, and then you can have that information come back in a few days or a week or whatever, and then use that time to sit down and reflect and see what you see. So client retention. So how many of the cases that you received in 2024, how many were new clients and how many were returning? Are you even watching that data? Why does that matter? Well, the new business is going to be like, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like new blood, new business that can turn into more referrals and more repeat business. And returning, I love it. I love returning clients. I mean, it's great. I feel like they're old friends in a way, having had a firm for 15 years. But also, you want to make sure you have a good number of new client as well. So the returning, the good thing about that is that means you're engaging them. You must have done something well to make them like you to come back, but also you reminded them in some way, or you have like a tickler or some type of a automation that you're bringing them back into the fold. So that's awesome, because if they already like you don't have to work that hard to remind them to like you, but you can be there for them. So those are things. Client satisfaction, are you doing a net report score? Are you doing a review? Are you asking everybody for a review? Are you asking them for at least feedback? How many reviews do you have? How many referrals do you get? What's the client satisfaction? Would you want to be a client in your own firm? Do you know what it would be like to be a client in your own firm? You might be the boss and you see it a certain way, but have you ever written out the client journey and see where things could be improved? I think about that a lot, actually. And I've heard people talk about how that can be huge in their growth of their firm, is to truly walk through a client journey and find out where the bottlenecks are and how they can improve, and have like a feedback loop where they can get that information from clients. Because sometimes the reviews are either for like they're super happy or they're super upset, and sometimes you just need some of that lukewarm stuff where you can get some feedback as to how to do things in that aren't so extreme. And then other either the cases or projects, do you have a way to know how long things took? Like, for example, do you have data that you can say from being hired to submitting, this is how long on average we took? Or yeah, I mean, because I think that's a really good number. Or from getting everything from the client to submitting, how long is it taking? So I think it can be a little overwhelming with what I'm talking about, because what you're going to do is first you're going to have to go collect data. But if you don't see this data readily available, then you're going to have to find a way to either sort of finagle the data, find a way to collect some of it, or get your team members to help you collect it in some way, and then build a system in the future so that you could be doing it. What I do find is this data is in lots of places, but if you're not centralizing or don't have a place for it all to come in, which you might not, and it doesn't mean everybody does, and it's not, I don't have it all in one place. I'm still moving things around and improving. So don't be intimidated by that. So do you look at some of the other numbers from, like, in terms of teams and operations, from employee productivity? If you do billable hours or you don't, in fact, I mean, the billable hours, I think they truly are going to go out the window soon with just everything with technology, and it's not actually the best way. But can you generally know how much time it takes for your legal assistants to prepare a certain type of package that you have or a case type? And if you don't have any clue, then I would say go look into that. I've done that. I run reports on that, and I keep in mind who can do things more efficiently. I also work towards cross training. But that being able to see how long things take will be invaluable for you to decide which staff to keep on, but also who to be doing which functions. Look to your staff turnover. Do you have turnover? Are you treating the new hires well? Are they staying? Do they feel engaged and onboarded? And so getting those feedback, and do you have a system to onboard them as well? And then operational efficiency, like how efficient do you feel like you are? I would say you run through the flow of the firm. We're gonna do a little bit about that and soon, and see where are the bottlenecks. So a contact or a call comes in, then what happens? And do you have systems written down? Do you are how is there only one person who can move the little ball to the next function? Or are there a few people in case something happens? And it also depends on how big your firm is and how your volume. So I know that we're speaking to different sizes, but those are some of the things you want to think about. And things happen when you're growing. It might be that one person's doing a lot of different things, but as you grow, you realize that one person should be doing less things, but a lot more. And so that they're not multitasking as much, and they're also not too much of a bottleneck to too many functions. Marketing, what's the lead conversion rate? A lot of people in the marketing and sales, they're like, well, this is what, this costs you this much for this lead or this for that. And but really, do you look at your return on investment for all the work you do? For example, I did something a little scary, I thought, this year. I dropped my Google ads and pay-per-click this summer to focus funds on some improvement. I did it a combination of I wanted to improve our systems to make sure we were more efficient and not wasting money. But I also didn't have exact data as to what those ads were truly doing. And that really bothered me. And I think there was something that Matt Spiegel said with Lawmatics, the founder, that really inspired me made me feel better about what I did do, which was to pull the plug on the ads. Now I know different firms have different needs, and I'm not saying for everybody to do that. But that was huge for me because I had them for 13 years. And for me to just take a pause and get some systems in order. But that took me also really thinking hard about the return on investment and realizing I didn't see the justification at the time. But you also should be checking to see where are clients coming from, and are you converting those leads, and are you leaving any business on the table? Just because you might have a lot of followers somewhere, it doesn't necessarily mean that's leading into more business. So you really have to see the big picture and not get blinded by certain numbers, but really look at the return on investment. And then I think it's important to talk about your strategic insights. Get more in that CEO mentality. How many of the goals did you accomplish? Um, for us, it was move over to case management software, to implement Lawmatics better with the case management software, to working on continuously improving a lot of different of our different functions. Our market position, like how did you do? Did you move up in the market? Are there a lot more competition? Do you know where you want to fit in the competition? Like, how are things going? And then a risk assessment, like I was mentioning earlier, um, looking through the potential things that could happen can help you have a plan. So, I mean, in the last 15 years, I've moved my company abroad. I've lost a mom. I've had two kids. I went through, I don't know how many hurricanes. I went through a pandemic. I don't know how many presidents, is that three or four or five? I don't know. I moved the office, I think 4 or 5 times. But I actually used to teach a course about risk assessment with a small business, and we went through about 20 different threats or things that could happen. And what the exercise was, we said, okay, what are the most likely risks to your business? And then what, rank it, and then what would be a solution to that? And in the very beginning of the class, everyone's like freaked out because I'm like, all these horrible things could happen. And then at the end of the class, everyone felt a little better because not only had they identified potential things, but they also had, sort of like lost its sting by having said it out loud and thought it could happen. But then they had made a plan and they said, if this were to happen, I would do this, or I'll do this to mitigate this as a risk, like getting insurance or having better systems or having better contracts. And so that's a skill set and a function I think we should all do. And then trends and forecasting, okay, so you made this much this year and the year before. What do you want to do? Do you want to add like another 20%, 10, 30, 40? What do you want to do? Or do you want to be able to work less? Do you want to be more profitable? Do you want more revenue? Really building that intention of what do you want? And what do you think is going to happen is really valuable. And I think a lot of times we get to this overwhelm and we just say, we just get into this day to day sort of this like rat race and we don't really think through. And that's why I'm asking us all to pause and break things down into more actionable goals. So we did this little bit of this exercise. All right, so I want to make sure you're still with me, people. Which thing jumped in the most of those watching of this review and evaluate? What was like the biggest aha moment, or like, oh, I need to go do that, or I never thought about that? Feel free to put it in the chat so we can um, make sure that we're all engaged and learning from each other. And I think that helps inspire us as well. So what was like the most valuable in your reviewing and evaluating 2024? So we also shared this in the chat. So you're thinking about what, this is very in line with the evaluating, but this also helps you feel inspired because when you're thinking about it, you're like, how did I get that? How did that happen? What did I do right? And then the more you think through that and how you did things right and what you can do in the future, it really helps you think for what your plans are for the coming year. You've probably heard about this before. I love this concept. And so hopefully I haven't seen any chats for a while, so hopefully you're still with us, people. Okay, good. Hi, Janelle. Good to see you. Don't be afraid of the numbers. Yeah, don't be afraid of the numbers. Yeah, I mean, they're powerful, and the more we know them and the more we can lean into them, and we demystify the fear and the unknown, the more power we take back. And so I think that is a really good point. Thank you. Any other big aha moments or takeaways from that section, just feel free to put it in the chat. So it's important, I've said this before, so sorry if you've heard me say it before, but like, how often do you just get in the car and you just start driving aimlessly? Well, the thing is, like, sometimes that's what we're doing with our lives. We're just like getting in the car and we're just driving. Nowadays, my kids are like, why do you use the GPS, mommy, if you know how to get home? I was like, well, because it tells me, is there going to be traffic? Or is there a better way to go? Like we like all that certainty, but sometimes we don't even put it in our own lives. I find that a lot of times I need to go to this school, I need to go to this law school, I need to pass the bar, and I need to get a job. And then it's like, then it's autopilot and we stop making new goals. And so that's why it's important to truly have a mission and vision for your firm and yourself, and then go through and make sure that whatever goals you have are SMART goals, being that they're specific, that you can definitely see what the purpose and the desired outcome is. It's not just like, oh, I want to be rich. Okay, what does that mean? One person's rich is one person's poor. Like, what does that mean for numbers? Or maybe you want you say, I want a lot of revenue, but you're not being specific to say you also want profitability, which is also, this is really critical. So be very specific in that case. Measurable. How do you know you got there or not? What's the guy from the Mask movie? Okay, he's a comedian from like the 90s and still around. And there's this really good book snippet in the book about from about goals, and it talks about how he wrote I think it was a $20 million check to himself when he just moved to California and started acting, and it actually came true. And he kept it in his pocket, and then and so that's just an example about being the importance of it, of being specific and measurable and truly believing it can happen. There's a lot to the manifesting and the intention, and been working a lot in that space the last couple of years. But there's this book by Dr. Jody, I believe, Jyoti, called Mind Magic. I'm just been listening to him a little bit on some podcasts and then waiting to get the actual book instead of Audible because I heard it's a little bit more technical, and I'm really excited about that because he's a neuroscientist and he talks a lot about how the manifesting, how it works and comes into fruition if you do the right things. So is it achievable, relevant, and time bound? That gives you a deadline. You need to have a deadline. Now, when you're dealing with, yes, thank you, Jim Carrey. You know what I was talking about. um, so when you're dealing with some uncertainty, I just thought this was sort of funny because there's the things that things are aware of and understand, things we're aware of but don't understand, and there's so much like unspoken rules of in life, and I think it's also for us to have a healthy dose um, of like continuous learning, right? With Kaizen and just like I'm always improving. So things we understand but we're not aware of, and things we are neither aware of nor understand. So this is a knowledge matrix, and I think it's valuable to know these things, especially as we're going through some uncertainty in the future. We always are. We're business owners, right? There's a lot of uncertainty. Um, oh, the book about manifesting, it's called Mind Magic. Let me find my Amazon account. Yep, Mind Magic. Yep, it's coming, I think, today for me. It's a lot of pretty colors. I was like, "Oh, I like that. I like it. My book has pretty colors as well. So it's Dr. James uh Doty. Yeah, I think, yeah, by Mind Magic. Let me say that. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard some podcasts with him and I was impressed. Um, Okay, so let's move on. And another key thing you should do while you're doing an analysis is to do a SWOT analysis. How many people have done a SWOT analysis before? Feel free to put in the chat. Yes, no, what are you talking about? So I had a consultant many, many years ago, and this is when she first told me about this. I learned about it. And I did one, and then I did it again with the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Businesses program. And then I also I do it on a regular basis. And I also like to get my team, because things change, and I also like to get my team on board, and we do it through like our leadership retreats as well. So what are our strengths? What makes us special? What makes us unique? And that's also sort of a concept in traction as well about the uniques. What are our weaknesses? What can we get better at? And oh, we're not that good about technology, or our systems aren't documented, whatever that may be. Opportunities. Hey, we're like the only firm in this area and or that does this type of thing, or we've really leveraged our technology, we're ready to rock and roll, we have our systems in place, whatever that may be. And then threats, I don't know, AI, competition, not keeping on top of everything. So I would say have your SWOT analysis and update it, I'd say at least once a year, and have other perspectives look at it. Now, while you're evaluating how you're doing and what your goals should be, so we talked about that issue list. So I would say have your issue list handy, and then start really going line by line through the different areas of your firm. So, I sometimes break it down into these, and sometimes even a little bit more, just to make it a little bit simple to go walk through your systems. So systems could be like your operations. As I was mentioning, like that, the client journey, or walking through what it would take from like a call all the way to from a consult to contract, the life cycle of a case to the closing. evaluate what's working, what's not working, what percentage of it is documented, really evaluating those things. Like right now, since we moved over to new case management software, I'll say the CRM is not fully, we're just starting to use the CRM more complete. And the CRM has way more capabilities that we haven't fully utilized. But since we're still trying to run the firm and clean up things, and the size of the firm we have, we're trying to get those things in order. So and then, the tech changes and the systems change. And so, I guess the biggest question here would be what percentage are written down? How long ago was it? And are people following it and having regular training? And do you have a system of updating your systems? And going to the technology, when was the last time you looked at a technology, your tech stack? When was the last time that you evaluated the fee, the cost? And do you like your tech stack? Do you want to change? Do you want to look for something different? Does everybody know how to use it? Is there a point of contact in the firm that is constantly being that liaison with the different vendors, or one particular vendor that's sharing that information and keeping the firm on task? There, a lot of new programs out there are so robust that they require a lot of updating in terms of like tweaking and to make your firm even more efficient and profitable. But I think gone are the days where the programs were just like you open it and you could just start using it. I think a lot of firms were not truly using it fully, and now things are a lot more robust. So I think you need to be doing a tech audit every quarter, especially watch your credit card and your expenses and make sure someone's watching that to make sure you're not overspending. Now, staff and labor, do you need all the people you have? Do you need more? What's everybody up to? Evaluating the job descriptions, the productivity, and seeing what people, what would be the next couple of hires. Or can you leverage more technology and use existing team to be more efficient? Those are the types of questions to be looking at. Client satisfaction is very similar to what we talked about before with the reviews and evaluations, the repeat business. And the marketing is very similar to like, what are you doing? How many videos are you making? How many newsletters? Where are people coming from? And the more data you have, the more you can really, the accurate data, you can see, you can learn and glean from that. And then financials, like we mentioned at the very, very beginning, having those numbers and seeing how you're doing and what you could do differently. So I hope that these like bullets can make it a little bit simple to sort of think how to break down how to audit and evaluate your firm. And while you're using the issues list in the background, right, then you can be putting down, oh, this is a problem, this is a problem, but don't get overwhelmed by it. Just dump it in the issues list. And then later, after you've gone through this, then you can go back and say, you know what, this would be the best place to put my time. This is who needs to work on it. I'm going to give them 2 quarters to get that fixed, or 1 quarter, or whatever it may be. Okay, so this is when the PowerPoint's getting a little frozen, so we'll see what happens. I might have to stop sharing for a second. Oh, yep, now it's decided to not be frozen. All right, so where were we? Okay, so as you're preparing to get through some uncertainties that come along, and having practiced for as long as I have and had my firm, I think that, and have lived in a lot of different countries and different things happen. I think this was something that came to me during the pandemic, and I wanted to revive this into my PowerPoints now, because I feel like this is a good, healthy way, depending on where you are in your approach to this coming year, is what can you control and what can you not control? When you put it down into these perspectives, I think it helps you have a healthy perspective on how to approach things. If you get overwhelmed by what you can't control, you're just spending unnecessary energy on things you can't. It's not going to accomplish anything. And you might be like, oh, but I've already worried about it, and then therefore I know about it. No, so that's different from doing the risk assessment. The risk assessment is identifying, prioritizing, and deciding what would be a way to mitigate the risk. But then you have your little package in your list and you've thought about it and you maybe put an action item for it. but you're not spending every day worrying about it. Now, people have different approaches to life. So I just want to put this here because depending on where you are, this can may be very helpful. Um, Things you can control, things you can't control. And honestly, I'm using this framework for my clients too, because I'm like, this is what we know, this is what we don't know. And if you're okay with that, like I can offer anything else. That's what we know. And I'm just gonna tell you, like, I've been around the block a little bit. This is my first rodeo. I'm gonna just give you the most information I can, but you have to understand we can't control everything. Not that anybody can anyway. So, um, and so this is also another way to think about how the circle of influence is like what can you control can help you enlarge your circle of influence the more you're leaning into being proactive, which is why we're doing this webinar and we're really thinking through how we can evaluate 2024 and prepare for 2025. But reactive is like in that you're leaning into that fear and hesitation and confusion from one of those earlier slides, and it's not a good place. You're wasting a lot of valuable energy. And I love this. You've probably heard me talk about this before. And I think this is a good perspective, a good paradigm to decide how to approach things. You don't want to be in the important, urgent space. This is where like you're freaking out, you're like reading what's the one you're filing asylum rule? It has to be received on the day anniversary or the day after. So, that you don't want to be there, right? You don't want to be in this space. But sometimes people are so addicted to this that they think that this is productive. You want to make sure that you are reviewing and making sure that you don't live in one. Okay, I'm going to give you a hint. You're supposed to live in two. Two is where we're supposed to be on the productivity from looking at what is not urgent but important. So right now, if you were to say that preparing for next year is not urgent, but it's important, then you would be planning, preventing, preparing right now. I'm thinking it's a little more urgent than the not urgent, but pretty much by working on the business, blocking off the time is what you should be doing. Now, three is the urgent, not important. That's like people, using your inbox as your to-do list. That's letting people have all the little dinging and messages all over the place and distracting you, and then not getting any high-level things done. One book I really like is called Deep Work, and it talks about how you need to train your mind like a muscle to be able to focus on high-level things. And I think people get in a trap thinking that that's funny, his boss is amusing, that by just doing a whole bunch of things all the time that you're being productive, but not really, because you're just being switch tasking and you're not. If you were to do analysis, you'd really see that you wasted a lot of time transitioning from one to the next, and you also didn't do it well. And then the waste, which is like, you're so spent, you're just, uh, I mean, sometimes you need to take a break, right? But like, this is not what you should be doing with your valuable, like, daytime time, I guess you could say. Maybe it's more of your respite and your relaxing, but you shouldn't be like, flipping through the internet because you're just so spent and exhausted from all this switch tasking. So anyway, this is a good thing to think about for yourself and your team. So putting your goals in action, what you've evaluated 2024, you've done an audit, you've made put some stuff on that issues list, hopefully not too much, but who cares? You put it there, right? Exactly. Yes. Training your mind like a muscle to focus on the high level things. That was one of my biggest takeaways from the book Deep Work. I loved it. So you then obviously you've done all these things, and then you start going in and thinking through like what are your goals. What do you really want to accomplish? You can look to see what you've have already, and if you want to extrapolate the future, what do you want to do, what do you want to accomplish? And of course you're going to design it to be a SMART goal, but you really to make it down into action, sort of like that horrible expression about the eating the elephant. You just got to do it one bite at a time, or with the journey of 1,000 miles, one step at a time. I mean, if you really think about it, you've already accomplished a lot. You've done so much, but you really probably haven't given yourself credit. And to think you have so much more you can achieve and accomplish and do. Um, so how are you going to make it happen? So you want to be thinking through for short-term and long-term goals, and then breaking it down into a smaller bite-sized goals. Strategic coach does a lot of this type of mindset, and having lots of good charts and things like that. It's good to have accountability partners and or a coach and or consultant, someone help guiding you, or a mastermind or a group of other business owners or people that can be supportive. Um, I have a various group of people that I lean into, and I'm planning to build some more masterminds and some opportunities for other business owners in 2025. So I'm really excited to share more of those plans. But you really do need like-minded people that are going to build you up, and inspire you, make you better, and that are going to keep pushing you to achieve what's best for yourself, and what you're capable of. And so it's all a part of this whole mindset and this ecosystem. And they say like you're very similar to the five people you hang out with the most. Who are those five people? Do you need to fire one of those five people? Like, maybe it's a friend, but do you need to like eject them from your life because they're taking you down? These are the types of things, because your personal life affects your business affects your personal life, and it's all connected. So what are other things to be thinking about in 2025? Well, there's so much going on with technology. We'll just go through this really briefly, but anyone can ask a question. We're almost at the top of the hour. Love to have a discussion. You can interrupt me. I don't care. It's fine. Put in the chat some of your aha moments or a question. Feel free. So there's so much going on with technology, the AI, the bots, the automation. I've seen through all my speeches and out there 4 different legal tech conferences this year, the spectrum of I don't even know what AI is to I've built a tech company is sort of like what I'm seeing. It's just like all over the map, in terms of the people I'm talking to and speaking with. So how can you be more automate systems? How can you provide the services to your client in a better way? How can you reimagine it? I'm reading a book by Richard Susskind and his son, I think it's Daniel Susskind, and it's called The Future of Professions. And it's just awesome because it's talking about like how the evolution of some of the professions and reevaluating. And we shouldn't just be saying, oh, let's be faster or more efficient with our technology, but let's reimagine how we can provide this service. It sort of reminds me a lot about like Steve Jobs as well, and how he was sort of reimagining things and gave us like the iPod and the iPhone and things like that that just sort of reimagined the world. Listening to his biography right now, so I'm also thinking about those. And then what can you do to automate functions, um, and be able to be more efficient? I am purposely going through every area of my firm and saying, how can we be more efficient? And maybe it's only been a year since we last did it, or half a year or whatever, but I know that there's more systems and programs out there that can make us more efficient. And if we're doing something duplicatively or unnecessarily, I want to cut that waste as soon as possible. Like the Japanese word for waste is muda, and the Toyota production system talks about how to eliminate waste. And that one of the ways to do that is to run through all your systems and find a way. And what I've been finding out, and I've known this, but I keep re-knowing this, is that when you're changing your systems and you change your operations, and your operations change your systems. And so it's a bit exhausting as you're working through that. I think we're also seeing a lot continuation of the remote and virtual law practice. We're seeing a lot of change in the client expectations. They want everything 2 days ago, even though they just met you, right? Love them. But they're used to like Amazon telling them that they can get something in a few hours and it's on this truck. And like even Domino's. Domino's has a food pizza tracker, not just a little tracker that says, oh, Susie put the pizza in the oven, but like now there's like a little icon on the car that shows them driving to your house. You're like, whoa, it's going to be here. Like there's just no guessing at that point, and I think with our clients, they're just used to just they're not liking the long times of not hearing from us, and we can use a lot of technology to communicate better. Between having a mixture of cross-trained staff, from hybrid, virtual, what have you, contractors, honestly, I've lost track how many people we have because everyone's like, there's employees and there's contractors and part-time, there's this and that. I don't know. It's a little confusing. I'd have to really sit down and think it through. But what I've learned is that to have that like accordion of being able to grow and scale as needed has been very valuable, and that makes you more adaptable. Having those project management tools, like you can communicate and check things without to have asynchronous communication and to work together as a team without having to have those meetings or sort of wasteful check-ins are, I think, are super critical, especially if you've got team members in different time zones. And I don't know, I think I never used the word asynchronistic until the pandemic, but I'm leaning into that. And if we can find ways, you make a video, you send it, then you don't have to schedule a call, maybe you don't have to do that back and forth. um, I think you need to be able to have that culture of that the of change readiness, continuous learning. I give pep talks to the team like, this is what we're going through right now, and I get it, and we're here for each other, and being that leader for your team is super important. um, Having those cross training opportunities and know there's ways to not get burnt out as well, because that's one of the biggest things we're gonna have to watch for, is making sure people don't get burnt out with so much change going on. So having that supportive work culture, work-life balance, and working on that growth and retention, because the more you have good team members in the right seats staying on with you, the less you have to keep training, keep onboarding, or dealing with other things with the turnover, which can be very costly and impact your clients and your operations. So it's important for us to lean into those communication, clear expectations, having the check-ins as needed to make sure there's communication, but also putting systems in place to communicate. Those SMART goals are valuable and so invaluable, and having those milestones and celebrating the wins. You got to have fun, and you got to acknowledge who's doing great, and yay, good job, and making sure you remember why you're doing what you're doing, and I think that's so important. We like to celebrate those wins on in our chats and in our office meetings, and we like to also make it an opportunity to say great job. I know some people have like a separate chat, I think just for like happy things like that. I don't, we just sort of put on the big one. And sometimes people put silly memes and then we all laugh and, add on to that. And that's fun, especially when we have a true hybrid team where some people have never met in person. And I think if you have that empathy and understanding as a leader, and you have that servant leadership, it'll go a long way. So I hope you enjoyed today. We talked a lot about how some practical, actionable tips on how to review 2024, and also some ways to build out that issue list and to think through how you're going to make those goals and bite-sized goals for 2025. I just wanted to thank you for watching and engaging with us. We do have that book available, Power Up Your Practice. I mean, it's got a lot of valuable information, 25 chapters, everything from 2 chapters on marketing, operations, buying and building, exit planning, partnership track, operations technology, the future practice of law. It's got so much. And we also have the podcast, which is the 43rd episode is going out this week. And we also do consulting, and we're going to be having courses and masterminds and retreats in 2025. So I'm super excited about all of that. So you're the first ones to know our secret, but it won't be a secret very long, but we are working up to that point. This last year, we're very proud of having the book and the podcast come out. So it was awesome seeing you all. I am an immigration attorney over here, but that's not what I'm talking about today, but I am with Powers Law Group. So if you are interested in a free session, you can email us or connect with us with the QR code, Ruby at Power Strategy Group. We also have information on the Power Up Your Practice. And I'd love to be a resource and continue the conversation. We have a newsletter that goes out every month. And we, with a lot of valuable information and more information coming out soon. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to put in the chat. But we're almost at the top of the hour. And thank you so much for watching. Oh, and yeah, thank you, Stephanie, Laimari, Janelle, Mark Lee. We did one of the last webinars. Okay, the remote one. If you can just email me, I can give you that. I believe I can give that to you. I think we didn't post that one online. But if you want to, and thanks for all your everyone's feedback. And it was great to see you all. You can email me. I'll put my email here, or if someone, my team could put that email, that'd be great. But you also, if we haven't already connected on, I think that's my email. If we haven't already connected on LinkedIn, feel free to do that as well. I'll put, we can put that link in there. That'd be great. We've got some more, we got put a lot of content there as well, and we're going to be expanding that as much as we can. So thank you, everyone. Yeah, I would say use the Power Strategy Group one would be the best. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your week and holidays. And it's great to see you. Thanks.